Welcome to the Physical Product Movement, a podcast by Fiddle. We share stories of the world's most ambitious and exciting physical product brands to help you capitalize on the monumental change in how, why, and where consumers buy. I'm your host, Ken Ojuka. In this episode, I talk with Mark Samuel, founder and CEO of IWON Organics, a brand of flavor-infused snacks made from plant-based proteins like peas, beans, and brown rice. In our discussion, we talk about how Mark was able to spot the need in the market and develop a product to fit the market opportunity. We talk about some of his strategies to develop wholesale and retail partnerships. We also talked about the value of gaining experience by simply rolling up your sleeves and just doing it. Mark is a great founder with some incredible insights. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I hope that you do too. Yeah, hey Mark, how you doing? Thanks for joining me.
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, hey, just to kick things off, you want to share a quote that maybe you live by or that's impacted you in some way?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't do quotes. I don't do reading, and I don't do quotes. So how about just I'm fortunate to have woken up this morning. God's given me another day on the planet.
Hey, good enough. That might be the best quote, actually. So good stuff. So why don't you just tell us about what you did before IWON Organics? And of course, we'll get into your product and what you do now, but I just want to get a little bit of a history.
Sure. Before IWON Organics, I had founded a sport bag manufacturing company called Fitmark. And our main category that we were in was meal management bags. So bags that had an accessible meal container or cooler within the bag.
Cool. And it looks like you've been into kind of health and fitness for a long time. Is that just something that you've just been into?
Yeah, I'm a lifelong health and wellness enthusiast. And so the last few ventures that I've been involved with have been in the health and wellness space, which has been lovely. As they always say, you want to be doing something that you're passionate about. And so I've just been fortunate to be involved with a few brands that I was really, really into. And, you know, this being the most passionate one that I've found so far.
Okay, awesome. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about what IWON Organics is and what makes you guys unique in the market?
Sure. We're a plant-based snack company. Our core ingredients are legume-based, so peas and beans. So we have a higher protein and fiber level when it comes to our salty snacks. And then, of course, what everybody knows us for, we're organic certified, and we just have amazing, bold flavors combined with our products.
Okay, awesome. So you were the founder, is that correct?
That's correct.
So why don't you take us just back a little bit? What led you to enter this market and to take an interest in this product?
Sure. As I was sort of phasing out of Fitmark, I really wanted to get in food and beverage, and I saw there was a white space in what I'd consider to be the savory side of protein snacks, and not protein snacks in the sense that most would know it, such as bars and or things that are really, really super high in protein, just things that had a higher elevated level of protein that could potentially come from an isolate source such as pea protein and or brown rice protein, and really start navigating that arena. And that's how I found myself into developing a protein chip as our original product. And then that was 2016. And then fast forward 2018, I had got into extruded snacks. So our core two snacks today are a puff and a stick, both again, legume-based with peas and beans and rice.
Okay, so you mentioned that you really wanted to get into food and beverage. Was there anything that led up to that, or did you see an opportunity, or what led to that interest? What was the motivation?
There's just better economics, I would say, and I felt as though I could build a platform that I could just continue with for a long period of time. I've done multiple things in my 19-year career, and I saw that a health and wellness platform on the food and beverage side would probably be best suited for me because there are so many great things that are related to the things that I enjoy doing, such as innovation. And as far as the metrics financially, I had been used to products and or services where you have a customer and you potentially only have that customer for 1 or 2 or 3 transactions. And I'd prefer to build on something that has a longer term interaction with the customer. And that's how I found myself here.
Okay, cool. So it sounds a little bit like you are sort of the ideal customer, for this product. Did you have yourself in mind, or were you thinking about a specific segment of the market?
Yeah, you're always you should be creating a product for yourself. There was a void that I felt as far as savory snacks, organic certified, plant-based, and the like, that would have served a need for myself. I just knew that my need, I wasn't the only one out there. So I knew that there was a big market and one that we could target and go after long-term as far as not just health and wellness, but families. And that's something that we were interested in.
Awesome. So were you on like a plant-based diet, and are you still, or was that a lot of the motivation for having a plant-based product?
I was adding in more plant foods. So over the last 10 years, I've transitioned into eating more plant foods. I'm definitely not a vegan. I'm still a believer in eating meats and things of that nature, just less of it. Again, everybody has their own thoughts about nutrition and the like. I just know what works best for me, and I'm a big believer in that for consumers. But I'm also a big believer in balance, and balance in all ways, and not just nutrition, exercise, social media, just your lifestyle in general. So that comes with food and nutrition as well. So a lot more plant foods were entering my life, and I knew that if I was going to be building a health and wellness platform with regards to foods, I wanted to be focused on plants.
Awesome. So let's talk just a little bit about your product development. So early on, I assume you didn't have a recipe for this, or maybe you did. Can you just tell us about how you came up with your formula, your recipe, and then some of the steps that you took in order to actually get your product ready?
Sure. Just like anything, when you're starting out a business in a new category or whatever it may be, you just start looking around, researching and finding who's going to be able to help you. I knew that we needed a manufacturer. I also knew that manufacturers, or what most call co-packers today, could potentially help with R&D. And that's what I was able to do. I was able to find one that not only believed in what we were doing, believed in me, and was going to help with some early R&D. And we were able to get that co-packer at the time to produce a chip for us. Originally, it was a little higher in protein than we moved into, but at least it got the ball rolling, and it started to educate me on how manufacturers and co-packers work.
So a lot of people listening to this might be considering launching their own product. Do you have any tips for anybody that's looking for a manufacturer, and maybe some tips on how to best work with a manufacturer?
Yeah, never do it. I'm kind of serious. Food and beverage, I say that jokingly somewhat, but because people know me and I say that all the time. Food and beverage is an extremely difficult business. And if somebody is looking to get into this one, I know you had mentioned product just in general, but if somebody were looking into food and beverage, they really need to understand the lay of the land, what they're getting themselves involved with, capital requirements, margin requirements, and just competitive reality of what it looks like in our space. So that's item one. Two is, if you're just talking generally about a product, any sort of consumer product, research is important, and really dialing it in and connecting with the right people that are going to help you so that you can navigate all the obstacles that are going to come at you early on in the business. So, again, it's really finding yourself in a spot that's going to avoid early obstacles.
Okay, so let's talk about some of those obstacles or some of those challenges that you guys may have run into. Are there any that you could share with us where maybe you learned a couple lessons from?
Number one is margin requirements. Just like you would know and understand in any business, I often talk about, there's terms like keystone and things of that. You buy it for $1, you sell it for $2, and a retailer sells it for $4, right? It's just kind of that 50% margin requirement. You just need to be super dialed in and understand the financial metrics of operating a business and really controlling that. There's often a wishful thinking mechanism that approaches most founders, whereas they think that they could save money later and, I'm going to get into higher volumes and I'm going to reduce costs and I'll keep all of my overhead low. That all sounds great. It's highly unlikely that it's done. And what I mean by that is the idea that you will get to that phase, that you will get to that level is already hard enough. So you might as well dial it in the beginning, get all your numbers correct, get all your financials intact so that you have the ability to get to that point in your business. Because if you don't, you're probably not going to get there.
Right, right. And something I also see people doing is just underpricing their product in general, thinking they'll make it up in volume or something. But you really do have to dial in those numbers and kind of take a methodic approach to it, or else you're always in for some surprises.
Correct. Yeah. I think people, when they're not only pricing out the product, they believe that they need to look at the overall set and or environment that they're sitting in, and either, just you often want to undercut or come right below somebody. But in fact, that's the brand that you're creating the minute you do that. There's a reason why there are premium brands and will always be premium brands. And it's because they set the standard, from the outgate, right? And if you have that sort of thinking and you recognize why you are at a price point that you should be, and you stick with it, you have the ability to not just sell, but you have the ability to really remain there and have that be a part of your brand. And people kind of confuse that and don't pay enough attention to it.
Exactly. And I think that you're saying this, but I think it directly affects the customer experience with your brand, right? A lot of people try to have a low price product and then provide an experience that they just can't afford to. And so, yeah, the price that you choose directly affects your brand and your product quality.
Agree.
Yeah. So, I looked on your website. It looks like you have six different flavors. Was this something that you launched with all these different flavors, or did you start with one? How did you think about that?
We actually launched with 5 flavors of a chip. And so I don't believe you need that many. I would say specifically in what we do, often it's 3 flavors, maybe 4, but you can really keep your SKU count low. And I'm a proponent of that, not just early, but you can continue to grow your business on fewer SKUs. And that's also another value add proposition really for yourself and your business is lower SKU counts allow you to manage easier, allows you to drive your volume and revenue through those fewer SKUs, which allows you to do all those other great things, which is, buying in bigger volumes of the things that you need, and it allows you to manage your business a lot easier.
Okay, cool. So let's talk a little bit about fulfillment. Is that something you guys do in-house? Do you have a warehouse, or do you have a fulfillment partner? How do you think about that?
Yeah, we have a 3PL. So we have a warehouse and someone who fulfills for us. We've been very blessed to find a partner that's not only been able to keep up with what we're doing, but grow with us and be able to do special projects and the like. And so that's just a sort of a moving element of the business as well. You just want to keep your communication intact, keep it on the up and up, because there are strains that occur between relationships when they're both are growing, specifically in a project like that. Again, it's not just warehousing. You're talking about fulfillment. So there's trucks moving in now. And then nowadays with direct to consumer, you could be talking about hundreds of orders, on a smaller level as far as packaging. That takes up a lot of time and energy. So as long as your communication is key, your partners will grow with you.
Okay. So open communication lines. Are there any other tips in order to have a good working relationship with your fulfillment partner? And maybe even some tips on what to look for in a good fulfillment center?
I would say communicate. I'm a big communicator. I like to be ahead of the request of another. And what I mean by that is, if you know that your business is moving in a particular direction and there might be strains, you should be the one bringing it up first. It shows that you have empathy and it shows you have understanding of what's happening. And it allows for it allows for an easier conversation. It allows for one where your partner recognizes that you feel for, the changes that may be occurring. And you can have that open dialogue where they're not uncomfortable. I think that's a key element, something that I lean into, have done so for a long time.
Awesome. Yeah, let's switch gears just a little bit. So you mentioned direct to consumer. What's your mix online versus offline?
We sort of sit around 30%. Our goal is to be around 35%. as far as direct to consumer versus retail.
Okay, so let's talk about the D2C a little bit. You know, it looks like you do quite a bit of marketing on Instagram. You got a pretty good following there. You know, what's the secret to this, or what kind of tips could you offer people who are trying to do the same?
My biggest suggestion is find somebody who knows what they're doing. I know that sounds generic, but it's something that I talk about a lot. There's a lot of time, money, and energy spent by brands that have no clue what they're doing. And I say that with all the love in the world. And it's only because I can say it because I've been there. I've done different things even before this, whereas you're trying to navigate those waters as far as direct to consumer, as far as CPAs and the like. And the reality is there are people out there who know exactly what to be doing, exactly what to be testing, and exactly how to execute. And even with that said, you still may be unsuccessful. And by that is the product, the market fit, and the like may simply not be something that has an opportunity, but rather get there early and with fewer dollars wasted by working and spending it with somebody who knows what they're doing.
So I assume you guys then use an agency, or is this something in-house that you've hired out for?
In-house.
Okay. And is that what you'd recommend to people looking to promote their product online?
No, I recommend doing whatever they feel comfortable with. I know agencies who, have a good hand in it. And I also know really talented individuals who are either already working in-house for somebody or, are kind of working spot checks here and there. So it's to each his own. Everybody has their own temperature gauge when it comes to that.
Okay, awesome. Sometimes it's helpful to hear about an experience that maybe didn't work out, marketing wise. Do you have any examples that you could share with the audience?
That's a good one. I mean, tons. Ads, specific ads. I mean, again, specific ads that don't work. There's communication, the way you've just talked about your product, who it's pointed at, the demographic that it's pointed at, the color of the ad, what's inside the ad. That's the whole idea behind direct to consumer. And then that's, again, just 1/10 of the part. And then there's everything that you are doing as far as being able to follow up with those customers. So are you acquiring the email? How did you acquire the email? Did that work? What email are you sending them? What is inside that email? Are you saying something that makes no sense? Are you saying something that's attractive to them? Will they click on the link that's within the email to bring them back to the website? Did you give them the right offer? What was the offer? Why didn't that offer work? Are you losing money on the first transaction? Are you making money on the second transaction? Are you making money on the 8th transaction? Is nobody coming back on the second transaction? I could talk to you about this for days. That is D2C in a nutshell.
Right. And I think what I'm hearing you say is that there's a level of sophistication to this that I think, maybe newbies make the mistake of just, thinking they're going to spin up some Facebook ads and all of a sudden have sales. And you really need to have people on your team that know what they're doing and can actually track all these things so that you can move in the right direction.
Correct.
Let's switch gears to wholesale or any sort of retail partnerships. Do you guys have any partnerships that you could share with us?
Yeah, we're national at Vitamin Shop for nutrition supplement. We are in Sprouts nationally. We're in Safeway here in NorCal. We are in 2 regions of Whole Foods, which is in California, both NorCal and SoCal. We are in Kroger out east, 600 locations in Kroger. And then we're in some really great regional and independents, Brookshires and Rouse's and Air Ones and Lazy Acres. We have a really great opportunity retail as of right now. We're still growing, got a lot of room to grow there. And then, of course, online partnerships like Amazon and Thrive have been amazing for us.
Awesome. So rewind just a little bit to once you created your product and you're going out and actually trying to build some of these partnerships. How did you guys approach it, and maybe how do you guys think about it in-house? Do you have somebody that's in charge of that? Is that a big focus for you guys? Just in general, how do you think about it?
Yeah, we have a director of sales. So each partnership is its own. We've been lucky to have both partnerships come to us, and of course, we go to them. And so it's just one of those things. You're just waiting your turn, and when the time is right, you're able to present and hopefully put something in front of them that makes sense and something that their customers are looking for, or that you have the ability to prove to them that you're bringing your customers to them. So it really is all about a true partnership in not just being able to go into their store, but being able to sell off their shelf.
Right, right. So let's double click on that just a little bit. So who was your first one, first retail partnership?
Our first retail partnership was Vitamin Shoppe.
Okay, and so how did that relationship develop? How did you reach out to them? Just a little more detail there, I think would be helpful.
Sure. I believe I brought or I had reached out. Again, I was in health and wellness before. I've been in sort of the arenas of the Olympias and the Arnolds. And so I am very privy to the nutrition and supplement companies that are out there, the GNCs and the Vitamin Shoppes of the world. So I was able to connect myself into Vitamin Shoppe and bring them at that time, one of the few higher protein snacks on the savory side that was available. So there was a great opportunity, market fit, timing that had sort of connected all at once, and that's how I landed in their office in New Jersey, and that was our first partnership.
Cool. I've heard you on your podcast. You talk a little bit about brokers, and you have some feelings about working with brokers. Do you have any do's or don'ts about kind of navigating that relationship?
I think that's the same as most. It's to each his own. Is every person an individual personality and they're how they're comfortable with those relationships. There are really great brokers out there, and there are not so great brokers. So you have to navigate the space and get comfortable. I think referrals are always helpful. It's like with anything, when you're hiring somebody, you do want to do some sort of research on that person, individual, or company. And I don't believe it's done enough, because there are a lot of brands, especially newer, smaller brands in our space that, of course, have wishful thinking and optimism, and they're approached by people who tell them that they can do certain things, and that's not always the case. And so oftentimes money is spent when it shouldn't have, and you just got to be very careful with who you're working with.
Awesome. So also just kind of about distribution and kind of marketing. Trade shows are really big in this space. Obviously, they kind of been on hold with COVID and everything that's been going on. But with COVID numbers kind of moving in the right direction, and trade shows thinking about starting up here later this year. How are you guys approaching this? How are you thinking about it? And are trade shows part of your upcoming marketing campaigns?
Not as of now. I don't know what's going to happen with trade shows and what they're even going to look like. I think we're fortunate right now to not really have to address that, because we have so much going on. I just had gotten off right now, actually, with a Kroger. We were invited to a Kroger Innovation Summit, as they call it, and it was by Zoom. And so we're just going to be able to ride out, sort of this type of platform until what we believe to be a true trade show is, and its opportunities are going to come available.
Okay, cool. Just out of my own curiosity, I know you've got your own podcast, Let's Eat with Mark Samuel. How do you think about it in terms of your overall marketing strategy, and how's it been for you guys? What kind of results have you seen?
We never really intended for it to have any results per se. I just was able to answer to something that I thought was a void, which again is like with most things. I couldn't get on any particular podcast or Zoom interviews earlier in the business, and I wanted to, and so I thought, well, I'll just do it myself, and that's kind of how it started. I think we're coming off getting close to a year. I think maybe I started in May of last year, so we're at about 10 months. Of doing it. We're at episode 79, plus I've done 10 to 15 other episodes which is branched off from Let's Eat, like a sales series, and I just started a marketing series. It's been great. The biggest thing for me is being able to just reach out to and have great conversations with other founders and sales and service providers that are in the space. And so that to me is a win. And I feel like there's value add being delivered to those that are watching it, and that's the most important part.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, anybody that's listening to this podcast would probably be interested in your podcast as well. So what's the best way for them to find it?
If they're on LinkedIn, they definitely, look me up, Mark Samuel, and they'll be able to find all the stuff that I put out there. So that's that. Or they just, Google "Let's Eat with Mark Samuel" and all the episodes will show up on YouTube.
Right. Yeah. And I just went directly to YouTube and Googled and I guess YouTube that and found it that way. So, all right. So are you looking at any other platforms? I know Clubhouse is really big, making a lot of noise. Are you thinking about any of that kind of stuff or maybe even doing more in the podcasting space? What are you thinking?
Not right now. No, I mean, I've been asked to do some Clubhouse stuff. I'm on there. It's funny. I just opened up the app. I don't even know where all these followers are coming from. It's an interesting app. I've gone on it a couple of times. I've been asked to moderate a couple, which has been fun. I don't have much extra time for another app. And it's all good. I totally get it. I think it's cool. Yesterday I jumped into a conversation that was going on. I don't really get it yet, but I do understand it's mostly for other people who really enjoy consuming content. I'm not a content consumer. I say that all the time. I don't read and I don't really sit there and listen to any podcasts or anything, but that's just me. And that's what works for me. I have 2 young kids. That's my priority. Work comes second, and any extra time from there, it's probably not sitting on on an open dialogue Clubhouse. But again, that's just me.
Understood. Well, you had enough time to write an ebook, Small Wins, Big Victories. Do you want to tell us just a little bit about it and why you wrote it?
Sure. That was kind of an anomaly all through LinkedIn too. I had been posting, which I do. I put out content every day on LinkedIn, and somebody who was a ghostwriter had reached out and we just kind of meshed. She was an amazing person and she had been following me, and she's like, "You got to put all this into a little book." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. I've always wanted to do that. What does that look like?" And fast forward, next thing you know, we're, 4 months into this thing and coming to a little 5, I don't know what it is, 6, 7 chapters of small wins, big victories, which is really about, my ideas of celebrating small wins to get you, through each day, each week, each month, and how you can celebrate those and get you, sort of get you on that path of that its own success right there, through different things like health and nutrition and fitness and social media and family. And so that's what we were able to do.
Okay, awesome. And if someone's interested in that, where can they find it?
They can actually text the word WINS, WINS, to 81493, and it will automatically deliver to them.
Okay, awesome. All right, so I guess just wrapping up here, what's next for IWON Organics, and what are you excited about? Anything in particular you can tell us about?
We do have a couple innovations that are coming out, which is cool. We are launching a new product next month, actually, and then we are planning, we're kind of moving this other innovation up just because we're super excited about it, that we potentially could be launching in early summer. So we've got a lot of stuff going on as far as new product releases, and just the momentum of our brand and our company is an exciting thing to be a part of.
Okay. And if somebody's interested in keeping up with some of those innovations and what's coming up with you guys, what's the best way to do that?
Our website, IWONOrganics.com. And then, of course, following me, I put out a lot of that stuff early on my LinkedIn page at Mark Samuel.
Okay, awesome. Well, let's just do a quick fire round. I'll just ask you a question. You just tell me off the top of your head any answers that come to mind. What's one tool or resource that has helped you the most with your current project?
Doing it.
Just getting into it and doing it.
Just do it. Go do something and you'll figure it out.
Okay. What is one piece of advice that you would give your 21-year-old self?
Not one thing. I would not give my 21-year-old self any information. The biggest thing you could ever do is learn through experience. I wouldn't tell my 21-year-old self a darn thing.
Awesome. And who is one person that you'd love to take to lunch?
My mom.
That's awesome. All right. Well, I appreciate you, Mark, taking the time today and spending some of your valuable minutes with us. I think that there's been a lot of awesome content here. Is there anything that you want to promote or plug, as we wrap up here?
You're just your show, brother. Whatever you got going on here, let's get it out there.
All right. Sounds good. Hey, thanks so much for joining us.
I appreciate it. Thanks, man.
All right. Bye. The Physical Product Movement Podcast is brought to you by Fiddle. To find out more about Fiddle and how our industry-leading inventory ops platform is giving modern brands and manufacturers full visibility into their inventory and operations, visit fiddle.io. And then make sure to search for Physical Product Movement in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Fiddle, thanks for listening.